Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, I'm Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. Today I'm going to talk about posture, and if you know me at all, you know that I am fanatical about posture as I am about fascia science. Posture is something that we really don't get trained well on in school. The program that I went to and the program that I taught in, I thought we did a pretty decent job of teaching students the basic how to measure joint range of motion, how to identify origin and insertions of muscles. We also covered a little bit on ergonomics, a little bit on wheelchair seating positioning, maybe some other random things about posture, but looking at it from an overall big picture, whole body perspective was just something that did not happen. And when I first was beginning to be concerned about this from the perspective of fascia, which I will touch on here in a little bit, I could not really find any assessments out there that showed me how to evaluate somebody's posture. Even when I was going through the myofascial training, it was more have somebody strip down to whatever they're willing to strip down to and sort of eyeball asymmetries and things that looked maybe rotated or shifted that shouldn't be. Because that can be complex for sure, but as objective as it got. So I've gone into a deep dive on posture, and I will let you know where I've gotten throughout this podcast. But let's first talk about why is posture important and why should we be so concerned about it, and why do we have to go beyond what mom and grandma told us to stand up straight. It is so much more than that. We know there's a lot of social influences on posture. There's a lot of environmental influences on posture from all the jobs we have that are sitting, putting kids in little chairs, even when they're little toddlers in their tiny little chairs and tables. So much sitting is definitely an influence. Sitting not just work and school, but also most of our leisure activities, driving around in cars. So much sitting influences our posture. Other things influencing our posture, the obvious technology, the use of phones, the head forward posture, all that is a huge influence on what we do. We've developed so many habits around our posture that become so unconscious, and I'll touch on that later too. But the media is a big one in the world of beauty, how models position themselves to display clothes and has an influence on people in terms of how they hold their bodies and is it more upright and straight and the more the military looking, or is it more relaxed and shoulders rounded? And that shifts and changes, but you can see how the younger generation adopts some of those things that become more popular in the media from a beauty perspective. I think when we do stand up a little bit straighter and stack our bodies up the way they're designed to be stacked up, we do look younger. And I see that a lot when I'm out and about on walking paths, or I'm looking out my window watching people walk by on the walking paths. You can kind of tell who is older and who is younger by the posture that they are assuming as they walk by, whether that's it's probably a completely unconscious thing. I have a client who has really, it took a while, but eventually he really adopted the whole, okay, posture can have an effect on my back pain. Posture can have an effect on the pain in my hip joints. And once he bought into that and started practicing it, made a huge difference for him. And now when he comes in to see me now and then, he tells me the stories of what he's noticing in his circles, and how he will just walk up to somebody and start talking to them about their posture. But he told me a story recently that he was out at a grandchild's sports event, and he saw this person walking towards him, that there was some kind of familiarity to this person, but he didn't think that he knew them because that person was unrecognizable because of the posture that person was assuming. He thought the person walking towards him, he said he thought they were maybe in their late 80s, maybe even in their 90s, by the slumped over, head forward, looking at the ground posture. But when that person actually got up closer to him, he recognized that person as somebody that he knew that was actually the same age as him, which is more like late 60s, early 70s. And he was blown away by his experience of the influence that seeing somebody else's posture had on his assumptions about that person. And it solidified his own, I got to keep working on my posture. I got to keep doing this because it's so important. And he ended up having a conversation with his friend about his posture, and that, you know what, my client was telling him, I have changed my posture. You can too, and you will probably be more comfortable and more functional. And it warms my heart when clients tell me those kinds of stories. It's so important. But anyway, the point of the story is, if you, and most of us do, not just want to look younger, but feel younger in our bodies, posture has a lot to do with that. We also know from the work of Amy Cuddy that posture has a huge influence on confidence. And when we hold our bodies up the way our bodies are designed, we not only feel more confident, we look more confident to other people. There's evidence on falls that if we have better posture, we have less risk of falls. And that has a lot to do with our visual system, our proprioceptive system. When our body is stacked up the way it's designed to be stacked up, it functions better. Not only does the proprioceptive system functions better, but the joints function better. We have more full access to our joints, and they will move the way they should move. And this is just a simple little activity that I used to do with the students in school was, if you're sitting or standing, tuck your butt, round your shoulders forward, and then slowly try to lift your arms. You can't lift them very far. I can't lift mine more than 90 degrees right now. But if I get my low back curve in place and I stand up straight, I have full access to the range of motion of my shoulders. Teaching adults, especially as they get older, to those simple little things that might give them a little more reason to stand up straight because they can use their bodies. Their joints will probably hurt less. We know joints hurt less and have less problems when we take them through a full range of motion on a regular basis. Got to get people in a posture that allows them to do that. And I think we need to start thinking about that with kids too. Because if you are out about in the community, and I hear this from my clients too, what's happening with kids and teens? Their posture is, oh my gosh, the head forwardness, the rounded shoulders, the tucked butts. We have to be teaching this to kids too, or we are going to have an even bigger epidemic of pain and myofascial pain in the future. Because better posture does help with pain. I wanted to talk too about sports. I mean, we even know from the world of sports and their research that when an athlete focuses on getting their body into great posture first, their performance might move along a little more slowly than their colleague who's working on strength and speed, but they are going to surpass their colleague who didn't focus on posture. And that's out there in the literature. Something I do with my teens, because I do get a pretty good handful of teens in. A lot of them are athletes and they've got some kind of injury because in whatever sport they're doing. And let's just take baseball. So it might be a hurt shoulder or my back is hurting because I play baseball. Well, when I take a look at these kids, when they're walking in and talking to me, their posture is not good. And so here's what I ask them to do. And I ask them first, well, do you want to keep playing sports? Do you hope that maybe you're going to go to college and play sports? Or you want to be able to play baseball the rest of your life just for fun? And their answer is always, well, yes, of course, I love it. And I talk to them about posture and I'm like, okay, well, who's your favorite baseball player? And they tell me, and I'm like, okay, here's your homework. And they think their homework's going to be improve your posture. Well, their homework in phase 1 is go home, get on the internet, or get on your phone, get on the internet, and find some pictures of your favorite player when they're not playing their sport. And tell me what their posture looks like. When they're standing for the anthem, when they're being interviewed, when they're caught out in public doing something. And they find that, okay, these sports people, these athletes, they have great posture all the time. You can't expect your body to perform well when you spend a lot of time in poor posture. Your body kind of gets sticky and stuck that way. And then when you do want to use it in an athletic way, you're asking your body to move through all this sticky stuff in order to be able to perform, and you increase your risk of injury. So athletes know that. That's common knowledge in the athletic world. But we don't know that as the general public. We're not generally taught that, at least in OT school anyway. So we have to bring that knowledge and that research into what we're doing with our clients, whether we're working with people with pain or whether we're working with people who need to heal from something major or even something minor. So thinking about that and integrating that into our everyday practice in all practice settings, from pediatrics to skilled nursing and everything in between, posture is something that we have to fold into as a regular part of our practice. So let's make the connection to fascia. So how does poor posture make your body sticky? Well, maybe I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there quite yet. First, let's talk about posture itself. So posture is something that most of us choose in a very unconscious way. We develop habits. Oftentimes we're developing habits from the people that we grow up around. If you look at families often adopt the same postures. We get a lot of things from our family, our habits of living, our habits of speaking, our beliefs. why wouldn't we also adopt postures and gait patterns and things like that? There's some evidence out there that supports that. So it's often very unconscious. And I often hear families, the dad comes in, then the daughter comes in, and then the other daughter comes in, and they all have the same back pain, and they tell me how they inherited it. And I'm like, okay, you inherited it because you adopted the posture of your parent. Okay, and then we can also like teens will adopt postures of other kids that they're hanging out in their friend group. So posture is something that's often very unconscious, and we fall into a habit of sort of putting all of our weight on our right foot and dumping into our right hip, or always crossing one leg over the other. Posture habits are very unconscious, but we can make them conscious again and improve them. But it's work, it's effort, and it takes consistent effort to make it change. Okay, now let's talk about the fascia component. So the fascia component is a cell that's part of the fascial system called the fibroblasts. The fibroblasts are in the body, in the fascia, and they have a lot of different roles, and they either can secrete a substance that will sort of dissolve away fascia, or they can produce more collagen to help produce more fascia or make the fascia more sturdy. The only way that the fibroblasts know how to or what to do is through the mechanical pressures that we feel into our bodies. And most of the pressure that we feel in our bodies is our relationship to gravity, how we choose to stack our bodies up in relationship to gravity. And then we also, of course, feel whatever it is we're standing on and what we're sitting on. And then that creates a whole nother layer of that relationship or those pressures into the body. We can also create pressures in our body through tension that comes in through stress. And we hold our shoulders tight or hold our jaw tight. Some of us hold our abdomens or our hips tight. I had somebody the other day who she holds her legs really tight, her thighs really tight. So the fibroblasts know whether to take away fascia or build it up based on the pressures that they detect in the body. And it's an adaptive response. It's an adaptive response by the fibroblasts to do what we need in our body. It's detecting what we need. And when we stack our bodies up the way that they're designed to stack up, everything can be normal, and we're stacking up in an efficient way. We're stacking the long bones of the legs on top of each other, the hips on top of that, the spine and the curves that it's designed to be in on top of that. When we do that, the fascia can not be too stiff or too loose. We have that just right tension in the fascia. But then let's take the head forward posture, or the fibroblasts in the fascia, and let's say in the upper back and neck, detect that, this 8 to 10 pound head is forward from the body rather than stacked up on top of the spine where it belongs. Then the fibroblasts are detecting, okay, we've got to reinforce that the neck and the upper shoulders, upper back, in order to create enough stability to hold that head out there. And then what happens, of course, is they start producing the collagen and weaving the fascia in a way that it's going to really hold that head. But what happens then is there's less room for everything that runs in the fascia to function as it should. And we get a sensation of achiness, of tension. The fluids can't flow. We get trigger points. All these problems start to occur. But that can occur anywhere in the body. Another common problem that I see is that habit of if someone's standing and they're talking to you, then they dump all their weight into their right foot and the right hip, or it could be the left. So that hip gets more mechanical stimulation, more calling into the fibroblasts to build it up. And then they detect less on the left hip. And so there's more calling into the fibroblasts to say, hey, we don't need so much over here. But then what happens when you want to go for a nice long walk and you need each hip to function symmetrically? We don't have that symmetric ability. Or let's go back to the teenage baseball player, and he's sitting around with his head forward posture and his rounded shoulders most of the time, but then he goes to practice or he goes to a game and he's got to rev that arm back and ask that shoulder to go in a total opposite range of motion than it's used to being in, and then accelerate forward. He's pushing through a sticky shoulder to get what he needs in that moment, and he can do it. But there's a price. There's a price. So with that knowledge of fibroblasts, it becomes completely obvious to me anyway, how important it is to have good posture to inform the fibroblasts to continue to build us in the most efficient way possible on the inside, so that we have the best possible access to our bodies, not just with the daily things that we need to do, but sometimes with the unusual things that we need to do. And unusual things could be fighting a door in the wind to get inside a business on a super windy day and it's a heavy door. It could be the puppy kicked the toy underneath the middle of the king-size bed and you've got to crawl under there and get it. The unusual things, the having to pick up the turkey at the grocery store near Thanksgiving, the heavy things that are unexpected that we just don't do very often. We need that access to our bodies. So how do we look at posture in our practice at Mare Wellness and with our clients? Well, a while back came across an author named Katie Bowman, and she has produced several books that have changed my perspective on posture and movement. And I first learned about her a decade and a half ago. I'm not even sure now. But she produced a book called Alignment Matters, which is basically a conglomeration of many of her blogs over the years that she wrote. And Katie Bowman's a biomechanist, and she, in a very short explanation, devours the biomechanical literature and funnels it into texts that the public can consume and digest. And they're brilliant. They're wonderful. Absolutely love them. Have been to one of her workshops out in Washington State and felt like a fangirl going there after reading all her books, many of them over and over and over. So the Alignment Matters book actually divides all her blogs into areas of the body, and she doesn't necessarily give a point-by-point objective way to look at posture. But if you read that book enough times, you can pull out, which I've done, all the different alignment points. And she provides some, but there's lots of different alignment points and things that we can look at in the body. And then I've pulled in a few things from other references to tell us specific, objective points that we can look at in the body to tell us if someone is able to get themselves in a posture that is the posture that we are designed to be in and function best. Now, let me take a little aside here. Katie Bowman talks about posture and she talks about alignment. And posture is something that we can choose. And it may be an unconscious choice, but we can still choose it because we can, and any posture that we can assume is a fine posture. But then we also have alignment. Alignment is how one body part stacks up relative to another. And alignment is not something we can necessarily choose. And one of the best examples that's easily available to us is your collarbones. And if you put your fingers on your collarbones or go look in a mirror right now, you can tell whether your collarbones are angled. Well, first, are they symmetrical? And then are they angled, or are they more like horizontal or parallel to the ground, which is where they belong? That's not something we can easily change. If we're stuck in a V-shaped collarbone, then we have become so sticky in our fascia that we cannot recreate that easily. We cannot pull the collarbones down to horizontal where they belong. We have to literally begin to reshape our bodies through some targeted, effortful, not intense, but consistent stretching through that area in order to get those shoulders to come back down. So what we're looking at with the assessment that we created is to look at somebody in a chosen standing posture and to see if, one, they can choose something that looks like the posture that we're designed to be in a standing position, or are their choices off? Have they created habits that feel normal to them, but they're not necessarily neutral? And have their body parts sort of gotten stuck, and common sticky spots are the collarbones, the knees, the hips, definitely the hips and the spine. And how can we look at all those points in order to make an objective conclusion that they have some work to do in order to get into the best posture? Now that, of course, begs the question, are we supposed to spend all our time in perfect posture? Well, the answer is no. And authors like Katie Bowman, Daniel Lieberman, and others have said our bodies love and want variety. What I tell my clients is, I want you to feel equally as comfortable in great posture, the posture that you're designed to be in, as you do in any other posture. One way I teach that in workshops and with my clients is, okay, if you're going to sit down and cross your legs, go ahead and cross your leg the way that you would naturally do it. And for a lot of people, it's right over left. And then I say, okay, feel what that feels like. Now cross your left over your right. And most people will say that feels weird. I don't like that. It's not as comfortable. It's not painful, but it's just not as comfortable. That's a sign that you've developed an asymmetry. What I would want for you is to feel equally as comfortable crossing one over the other. That you feel equally as comfortable in any posture and great posture. So much so that your body floats towards great posture as much as it floats toward anything else in your unconscious choices. It's also having these objective points put into an objective assessment is something that we can use as therapists then to document. Assessment that we created has, I don't have it in front of me, I think it's 7 points to look at the body from the side and 9 points to look at the body from the front or back. And then we have a number that we can document, a total number, and we can share that with our client. We can show them where their body's at and then give them something that they can work on. And then we follow that up with, here's the movements that we'd like you to do in order to help you reshape your body. Here's what I want you to think about. Here's what I want you to practice. And then we can reassess down the line and we can document with a number if we need to. So we have that objective way of looking at posture, giving them something that they can do and something that we can see rather than just sort of eyeballing it. Now we also integrate in that the looking at asymmetries. That's absolutely part of this assessment. It's that asymmetry that gives us all this information gives us a lot of clues as to where the fascia is tight. So that informs what we do if we're going to do manual therapy with them, the myofascial technique, or if we're going to give them something to do at home or myofascial self-treatment, whatever it is. It helps us to create a plan. And that is so important for us as practitioners, but it's also important for them to see something more objective that they can do. So we have this assessment available if you go to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, and then that'll take you to our courses. We do have the assessment alone if you just want to purchase the assessment and use that, but you can take the whole course, and that will also give you all the science that I talked about and the references for that, but it'll also give you the plan, how the same movements and exercises that we give clients to help them reshape their bodies, and also on how we explain to them the whole fibroblasts and how that plays into, and my clients, they dig that. They can wrap their head around that explanation, and it gives them a scientific reason of what's going on in their body, and it also empowers them that they can make a change. So some of you that lean more toward the academic might say, okay, well, is this assessment reliable and validated? Well, my answer is no, it is not. It is an assessment that I created. Does it work? Yes. Will it give you objective points? Absolutely. Now, I have reached out to a couple different academics and said, hey, I would love for somebody to work with me. I used to be an academic. I know what is necessary here, but it's not something that I have the time and the ability to do in a private practice. So I would love to team up with an academic to create some statistics to be able to put the reliability and validity stamp of approval on this assessment. But in the meantime, I can tell you my clients love it, and it can be extremely helpful in helping you as practitioners be more objective in your assessment of your clients. I hope this look at posture was helpful. I hope that you are convinced more than ever that posture is something that belongs in every assessment and also in every treatment session that we do in all ages, in just about every setting that we practice in. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll go visit fasciainformed.com and take a look at all of our resources. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.